Top 10 cards you're going to want to keep an eye on for post Legacy of Destruction. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more. Also, I'm going to start over here with Ghost Ogre. And this should actually be no surprise to anybody out here, especially if you're looking at the current format out here. But Ogre, being able to detonate that very pesky field spell that Trident Dragons have. Also, Ogre actually has a lot more application than you would think. But keep in mind, we're expecting this to come down the rarity pipeline here and some different rarity. So this is just kind of one of those immediate, hey, pay attention to what's going on with the rest of what's available out here in the course of the meta, because considering these power-ups and the way that the meta is kind of adapting towards things, you're going to want to make sure that you know Ghost Ogre is one of those cards that you have, just to make sure, basically any situation that might actually come up, you're able to cover that relatively easily. So Ogre actually being a hand trap rotating back into the format, I think is actually a pretty good, solid answer to things. Who would have guessed? I really am genuinely happy that Ogre is back to help us out. Then we have Threatening Roar, Thunder of Ruler, Wabaku, all of these cards that, you know, can kind of stop your opponent from doing things. Obviously, Threatening Roar is on the top of the list here, to be honest with you, because the thing that Threatening Roar tends to really give you is, well, you know, no battle phase. Well, they can just no attacks. And the thing is, if you're doing things like Wabaku, they're still able to power through these synchro plays, and then they can put the one-ofs down for, you know, later usage. And that's a little bit of an issue along the way. Honestly, Threatening Roar, I think, is the apex of this. Obviously, you have things like Trap Trick as well, if you want to have extra copies of Threatening Roar in these cards to make sure that your opponent can't actually attempt to push through you or put you into those bad situations. But honestly, for how things are going right now, I don't really think you need Threatening Roar, but this is one of those cases of, you know, who really knows? You know, is this going to be the best thing that you could possibly come up with? I do think we're going to put Dimensional Barrier here, though. Dimensional Barrier, I think, does a way more efficient job at what you want Threatening Roar to do. And it covers so many more matchups. One of the things you've got to look at when you're looking at a lot of the developing metas out here is you need cards to cover more matchups. And being able to have things that can stop random Xyz summons, stop these random other synchro piles. You know, oh, what, maybe you're scared of Colossus coming out. Well, you can call Fusion on that if you're running into one of those pile decks. Alright, that's what Dimensional Barrier gives you over a more narrowed down version like Threatening Roar being for one specific matchup. And it's fine. You can have Threatening Roar, and you can technically have Deep Barrier if you're really worried about the Trident Dragon deck coming out here and absolutely smashing your face in. So that's multi-purposing at its finest. And then Unending Nightmare. This is something I've been personally tracking for a little while out here. I think Unending Nightmare, as it stands right now, has a lot more undervaluement going for it. Like, people haven't really, I guess, had time to look at the meta and go, wow, you know, Unending Nightmare is pretty good, especially when you've got Nightmare Thrones out here running around for these Ubel players. You know, these Nightmare Thrones, the continuous spell cards, the gates as well. Unending Nightmare also, you know, being able to hit Tenpai's key field spells and take those away from them. Honestly, and, you know, not to forget about the other matchups in which this is pretty good. You know, hitting the Sanctuary and then hitting the field spell is also going to be pretty good on the Unending Nightmare. Just, hey, remember, it's once per chain, pay 1,000, and you're able to effectively wipe away all the little BS that kind of comes with this. So I'm not really surprised. I mean, you saw, you know, mention of some of these little interactions with the latest tech choices. And, hey, speaking of tech choices out here, set rotation. We're back at a point now where set rotation has actual value in what it can do. It's kind of funny, actually. We leave one format, we head on into another format, we're like, where did all of these field spells come from out here? And not to say that Konami did a bad job with, you know, pushing things, but we're back in that format where, you know, field spells are everything. The Tenpai Manor, the fact that Ubel's Nightmare Throne is doing things, there's way more abuse of field spells coming down the pipeline. But the fact that you're just now getting to scrape out the beginning of this and getting the chance to see, you know, maybe there is something to exploring set rotation out here. Yeah. It's another terraforming on a quick play that lets you bump your opponent's field spell in response to them attempting to activate their field spell. I think that's my favorite thing, is the fact that you can bump their field spell and then have access to all the other crazy field spells like Necro Valley at your disposal to punish your opponent. It's actually pretty good. And then we have Minerva. So Minerva strictly gets mentioned here because you have all of the new Lightsworn cards came out of existence. Technically, you can mention Wolf, or Lumina, you know, all of the Judgment Dragon, Punishment Dragon as well. The entire Lightsworn archetype can go here. The biggest things to consider when you're looking at the Lightsworn stuff right now is, what can I afford to pick up? What do I need to pick up? And do I think that these options are going to be worth it? And to be honest with you, I understand some of the Lightsworn stuff might not be the most, you know, budget friendly at this point, but it's, if you're looking at the pile decks and you want to have some fun right now, Lightsworn is a fan favorite. Many people have had a great opportunity out here to pay attention and pick this stuff up early, which, good job if you did. But for now, Minerva's probably going to be on the highlight reel next to Punishment Dragon, and most of these things are one-ofs. So it's not awful, except for Fearless Wolf. And then we got to talk about Dispater. I don't know why people are shocked that Dispater suddenly, you know, shot up in value over time, because when you were looking at the way that you cratered, you know, our dear friend Baron off of the face of the planet, you know, R.I.P. to Baron. You know, the next thing that Snake Eyes was going to do is they were going to go, oh, well, we can just go formula and then, you know, use our Flamber's Dragon, which is the same thing we're using to make Baron with. They'll just make the Dispater now. And it's a little bit worse of a situation, but they're still able to achieve the exact same results that they wanted to do while looking at this, all right? Like, that's everything that they wanted, and they had a very easy replacement. Oh, no pesky Omni Negate anymore. Whatever will we do? Anyway, for the most part, Dispater, I think, found itself in a very good position, and it was the slowest upwards tick watching that card go to $40. I'm surprised it took so long. Next up is Tzolk'in. Interestingly enough, Tzolk'in has started to find itself actually starting to show up in some weird iterations. Obviously, you know, Tzolk'in's very famous for the little, I guess, toggle ability that it can do, being able to bring out more of these other weird synchros, I guess. Obviously, Crimson Dragon, I guess, fits in this exact same category. These synchro cards that you're able to make and be able to toggle out into another more specific option that you would need. So yeah, I'm going to lump the Crimson Dragon in here, strictly because, you know, Crimson Dragon being able to toggle down to a Dispater is typically pretty good, actually. It doesn't come up really all that much. Most of these little synchro options that you have kind of turned into more niche negation / pressure points on the opponent, and basically allows you some pretty good options to control the opponent. Oh, and speaking of controlling the opponent, Crystal Wing. Ha! Ancient Fairy Dragon running around in the meta now. People have started to look back to Crystal Wing and go, wow, you know, we just need a level 1 tuner monster and we can go ahead and we can gas up into this right after we Ancient Fairy Dragon rotate a field spell. You know, Crystal Wing, you're not going to be making this in Tenpai Dragons unless you're doing some really weird Tzolk'in / Crimson Dragon plays. Don't highly recommend doing that. But to be honest with you, Crystal Wing, also, I've seen a random resurgence of ABC decks out here. So I guess if you're one of these people that's looking at playing ABC of all things, holy crap, we've come so far out here that people are looking at these weird combo ideas and go, yes, this is exactly what I want to do. We've already seen the Crystal Wing Ghost Rare propulsion into an entirely different orbit out here. So your value might have already been lost on that. But for now, the gains are what you want to expect to see. And number 1 on this list is Trident Dragon. We don't have a reprint expectation window for this just yet. We are expecting to see it later on in the year in like battles or something. And everybody was like, you know, these Tenpai Dragon cores are cheap. Unfortunately, as things stand right now, Tenpai Dragon is pretty inaccessible without that. I've already heard people go, well, I'm going to play this without. And that's fine, but if you're setting up to do the Trident Dragon play and then you're just kind of passing because, you know, you're like, oh, we whiffed, not going to make the Trident Dragon here, your opponent's going to look at you and they're going to go, did you not have that? And, you know, you just kind of like, well, you know, couldn't afford it. Still wanted to play Tenpai, though. Well, that's our pickups for today. Make sure you guys leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.